meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV 47.
Friday, 40 days to Christmas. Mambo inaendelea sawa sawa na leo it's a feel good Friday right here on Morning Cafe. Karibu sana, my name is Fred Indemuli.
And you still Stanley Ringita, definitely Friday. Bwana sifiwe.
Mwadhani ya rogo show.
Yes, all the headlines this particular day, bishops, and on our Feel Good Friday, it is all about gospel edition.
All right.
Leo ni hapa tu, tumsifu Yesu Kristo.
Ni muhimu.
Yes.
It's very important, especially as we get closer to the festive season. But before we even start with anything, there's a traffic situation for those on Kiambu Road. If you're using Kiambu Road around AAR area, directly opposite AAR areas at 4:30 this morning, there was these people who were putting up, what do you call it, a billboard. Yeah. So they've blocked an entire stretch heading towards Kiambu, meaning there's already a lot of traffic right opposite AAR hospital, meaning that there's only one lane that's being used. Wakiendelea hivyo, na kuambia ikifika 6:30, hapa itakuwa ngoma.
Alafu hiyo plus kamvua iendelea.
Plus rain. So if at all hujatoka nyumbani and you're hoping to get to work early enough, please do so to avoid that stretch. Yeah. So as you said, it is a Feel Good Friday. DJ Granite will be in the house to give us the lowdowns.
Yes, on the ones and twos, the turntablist himself, making sure that Friday yako imeanza salama vizuri.
All right.
Yes.
As you said, there's a lot of discussion around what the Catholic bishop said yesterday.
Yes.
So wamekuja wakasema ukweli yote, lakini wakasema kwa hiyo ukweli yote tunasema kuna uongo mingi. So we'll be looking at that and we'll be looking at the dailies to see what exactly they're talking about. Today for our panel for State of the Nation, we'll be having George Ngaira, Josephat Kamanya, Wanja Maina and Hans Rop for that discussion and a lot more. So yes, one, what the bishops are saying and the health situation with the shift.
And also Discernent dancers will also be making sure that people like us can also be able to move some legs. Oh yes. Yes, ndio hata ujifunze some moves here and there. They'll be right here. Based, Nairobi-based dancers.
Discernent
for that.
Yes. Okay. So yes, as I told you, the big headlines today, we start off with the Star because smart people read the Star. Independent, fresh and different. Bishops accuse state of human rights abuses. Now this is a softer one, I tell you, and we'll be having one of the journalists from the Star to ask them why they are going soft, because there's some more hard-hitting comments that the
nation.
Yes. So the Star decided to go with the human rights abuses. The Catholic Church believes government is out of touch with struggles of ordinary Kenyans. But the Standard,
bishops take on Ruto over killings graft, point blank. No holds barred is actually what they say.
Yes, we'll be back, take a look at this. Other quick highlights here. Cabinet says economy has stabilized. Yes, iko hapa chini. Economy has stabilized after measures. So hata wakisema kuna mambo mengi, because they're talking about unexplained killings, abductions, rampant corruption, growing culture of deceit. They want the president to address critical issues, including the chaotic new healthcare program, university funding, and confusion in CBC rollout. So that's another big story there.
It's lies and more taxes. Bishops blast Ruto's government is the big splash on Daily Nation.
Fichi.
Yes.
Sema in a stinging statement yesterday, Catholic clergy took on the Kenya Kwanza administration of a myriad of grievances it blamed for Kenyans' continued suffering. Sema it is lies and more taxes. Pale chini, outpatient crisis hits public hospitals. The SHA and SHIF still a very big discussion across the country.
Business Daily also found space for the Catholic bishops, voice concern on Ruto taxes and promises. But the big story, listen to this, 97% of state farms hide beneficiaries of tenders.
No wonder, unaona watu wakiendesha magari kubwa kubwa huku kumbe wamepata tenda ya serikali. Na ukifuata kwa system huwezi jua ni nani.
We'll be back to take a look at what IMF is also mentioned there, so we'll be back to see how IMF plays out.
Wanasema ni system ya maovu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Maaskofu wakemea serikali kwa ukandamizaji wa haki msingi za raia na mauaji kiholela. Na pale wametumia picha nzuri sana ya mabishop wale, maaskofu wa Katoliki. Jana hawakuwa na mince words.
Na wametaja masuala 6 ambayo wanailaumu serikali.
Sawa sawa, sasa niendelea.
Sema ni system ya maovu. Inanikumbusha wakati tulikuwa na system ya majambazi na ilikuwa inaendelea, inashika kasi sana. Vidokezo vingine kwenye other papers, People Daily wasema Catholics, Ruto must stop lying. People Daily definitely has gone quite harsh on this reporting. Speaking truth to power, this is the new look of People Daily. Other headlines, now we cross over into regional matters, into Uganda. New A-level curriculum shocker. Definitely Uganda always gives prominence to education matters. It says back to drawing board. Now that it has emerged that the government has abandoned the new proposed A-level curriculum it developed 2 years ago, only 2 months before the senior 5 entrants join. And education officials are now reviewing all A-level subjects to create an abridged curriculum. Have pages 4 and 5. But Fred, something also interesting, even as Kenyans, we also prepared today for a do-or-die match between Harambee Stars and Zimbabwe. For the AFCON qualifiers, Ugandans are celebrating, saying Uganda Cranes start AFCON party. They're going to be playing today, but then Najua, they have already qualified. So
congratulations to Uganda and the Ugandan Cranes. This is the kind of image we're hoping to have on our forward pages. At least kumoja tu tuseme Harambee Stars have qualified for AFCON kwa front page tu. Tafadhali.
Wacha game ya leo muhimu sana. Ishinda chances are will be going to Morocco for next year's.
Wow, that would be something. Then probably kesho. Sasa kesho hatuko. Tungekuja tuseme Harambee Stars begin the party.
Ama tukuja kesho 30 minutes pekee.
Unaweza kama nda tuma text.
Utakuwa virtually.
I'll call in.
Other conversations on the right, how Church of Uganda and Archbishop of Canterbury fell out. They still continue this conversation. Archbishop of Canterbury on sexual allegations, and it's it really touches Uganda, because you'll realize how Uganda is very strong on their Catholic bits.
Oh yeah. All right, and whoever designed the front page of the Daily Monitor today, I think ni ule wa Kenya or Daily Nation ametumwa ende Uganda leo, because the front page looks very much like its sister paper, the Daily Nation. So this is in Uganda. The other paper in Uganda is a New Vision.
Yes.
26 districts ready for oil exploration, something positive for Uganda. This is a New Vision. Government opens new oil blocks in Karamoja and Nakasongola. Hey. So kuna oil, 26 districts, possibility of oil. Imagine if they all, or even just a quarter or a third of those, waone kuna feasibility studies yenye zionyeshe kuna oil enough deposits.
It will be a game changer, because yesterday, remember, I was talking about how Tanzania was boasting itself that it has overtaken Kenya for being the exporter of Uganda. Now, right now, they might not be looking at Kenya and Tanzania for oil.
Yes, you remember that debate about the pipeline that takes oil
through Kenya or
through Kenya. Yes. Now, Uganda are talking about creating another one through Tanzania. If they do that, we'll miss out even on this possibility. Yes. But they also talk about football. Uganda qualifies for AFCON, is there on the front page of the New Vision as well. It's something they're celebrating. They've given quite some prominence on the front page, both on the Daily Monitor and on the New Vision.
Catholic Church is also making big news in New Vision. Clashes with Catholic Church. Ni kama leo
Catholic Church wameamua.
Yes.
Enough is enough. It's time to talk. All right, so in Tanzania, we start off with a new citizen. Samia recalls Mafuru's role in tough times. This President Samia Suluhu Hassan yesterday recalled the late Lawrence Marufu's significant contribution to national development, especially during trying times. And this is one of those prominent Tanzanians who passed on a few weeks ago. His funeral was held yesterday, and that is what features on all the front pages, just that ceremony. Plus zile sifa wanamlimbikizia.
Yes.
Maswala ya wanaitwaje gold kwa Kiswahili? Umesa. Government's gold purchase target firmly on track, says Minister. The Bank of Tanzania last year purchased 418 kilograms of gold and currently has 724 kg in reserve, according to Minerals Minister Anthony Mavunde. We rarely
get to hear about Kenya's gold reserve.
Yes. I'm sure we do have quite some reserve, but we rarely talk about it. While huko Uganda, it's not a secret. As elections draw closer, what ails opposition parties in Tanzania? Remember the civic polls in Tanzania, they are only about 12 days away.
Yes, it is on the 27th.
Yes, 12 days away. Today is the 15th. So something will be happening.
Kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi, Mafuru huyo ambaye he was very, very critical in the banking sector in Tanzania. Anasema Rais Samia azungumzia namna alivyokuwa mshauri wake kwenye nyakati ngumu, ikiwemo kumaliza tatizo la uhaba wa dola. Mamia wa mwaga, ndugu waeleza dakika za mwisho hospitalini, kuambia ujue ugonjwa uliochukua uhai wake, kwenye ukurasa wa 4 na 5. Kwingineko masuala ya siasa pale, tuhuma za rushwa zaivuruga Chadema.
Alright.
Hiyo ndio baadhi ya vidokezo kwenye gazeti la magazeti kadhaa. Turejee nchini Kenya.
Tuangalie weather. The weather forecast in Diani today, it's the best weather, not really. A bit of humidity there, but no rainfall. There's no rainfall here. So highs of 30 degrees later on in the afternoon. Right now it is 26 degrees Celsius, but it feels like 30. So kuna jua kali huko Diani, that's what you can call holiday weather. Marsabit a bit chilly this morning, 18 degrees Celsius. Promises to get as high as 24 degrees Celsius later on. Chances of a bit of precipitation, 30-40%, but not really proper rainfall as what we've been experiencing the past few days in other parts of the country.
Yes, over the weekend it's also going to be quite sunny. Let's go to the Lake region. It's going to be quite rainy today. Some thunderstorms as of mid-morning, as of 10 a.m. all the way. But before that, enjoy the sun. And itakuwa hapo. Over the weekend also. Sorry?
Mpaka saa 3 tu ndio jua inawaka.
Over the weekend, it's going to be the same. So if you're planning something major kasherehe pale in Siaya, ifanye asubuhi tu.
All right. In Nyeri, yes, rainy all day, 16 degrees Celsius as we speak. It won't get higher than 19. So chances of precipitation, 12.2 millimeters of rainfall. So Nyeri, it's rainy the entire day. I've been there on a rainy day, I can tell you for sure. It doesn't look nice.
Hawataonea mvua.
Jua hakuna mahali, angalia hii hakuna mahali jua inaonekana. There's no sun.
And it's going to be the same, ladies and gentlemen, in Nyeri over the weekend as well, Saturday and Sunday.
If you have your wedding in Nyeri, wacha tu, ama mkue indoors.
Tuone kama unaweza leta wedding yako in Nairobi. In Nairobi, pia huku hautakuwa na harusi mzuri sana, because it's going to be raining the entire day really.
The highest is 22.
Yes, it's going to start with a cloudy day in the morning, and then the precipitation continues, and then it will accelerate getting into the afternoon. So jitayarishe na some very, very warm clothing and na umbrella. Yes.
All right.
Speaking of what to expect, quite a lot is going to be happening today on a news diary. So first off, Chief Justice Martha Koome will today be presenting the State of the Judiciary and the Administration of Justice annual report. This will be happening at the Milimani Law Courts. It's going to be quite important to hear what, so far, how the judiciary is faring on, particularly coming after the backdrop of President William Ruto telling the judiciary to stay on its lane. We're going to be seeing how, for the judiciary, how they have been faring on. In politics, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka will today be holding a media briefing at the Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka Center, and we do expect him to be flanked by other leaders from, well, the opposition, really. Getting into the KCSE exam timetable, today Form 4 students will be sitting for their biology practicals, that is paper 3, starting at around 8 a.m., going all the way into the better part of the day. Speaking of matters education, today there are quite a number of people who will be throwing, you remember when you're graduating, unarusha ile kofia juu? Yeah, so quite a number of activities happening there for today. Daystar University is having the celebrations, University of Kabianga, St. Paul's University, as well as the Kenya School of Revenue Administration. So kama unajua one of your people is there, you can also head in. But then this also goes to show the kind of traffic jam you're going to see around these particular schools, particularly kwanza ya Daystar University, right, located at in Nairobi. Something also happening today, Kenyan actress and comedian, that is Tabitha Gatwiri, who passed away on the 31st of October, will be laid to rest today. And this will be happening in Meru, at the father's home, at, will be held at the Thiri Cultural Center. So stick around for that. We'll be just telling you all about that, even in our digital platforms. Into the sports desk, Zimbabwe will be hosting Kenya for the AFCON 2025 qualifiers Group J match. This match will be happening at New Peter Mokaba Stadium, Polokwane City in South Africa. We'll also be breaking it down for you. This match begins at around 4 p.m. there, East African time. So tutakuwa tunakuletea hayo na baadhi ya mengine. Right now though, let's get deep dive into the papers.
And we now want to delve into the papers, and today being a Friday, we focus on the Star. Independent, fresh and different. And to help us look at these headlines on the Star, we're privileged to have Gordon Osien, a journalist with the Star newspaper. Karibu sana, Gordon.
Thank you very much.
It's been a while. You guys mulipotea kidogo, but it's good to have you back. Yeah. So the front page of the Star today has a very interesting photo, because all the other papers have gone with the photos of the bishops and what they said. The main headline is about what the bishop said, but a very interesting photo here. And this is a case that is in court, paternity war, involving the, there was a third president of this republic, Mwai Kibaki. Now there's a gentleman called Jacob Ochola who claims to be the former president's biological son, leaving court yesterday. Now the Stars decided to put the photo side by side. And what is the intention? What is the intention of this? Is it to show the similarities? Because the two gentlemen are actually having the same posture.
Yes, posture.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why, well, it's the style of the Star, to give readers a multiplicity of choice of stories to look at, so that we give prominence to stories, not just one, but different stories, so that when you buy the paper, you get as much value for your money. Also, just to add that the Star also goes big on human interest content. Okay. So such story is a strong human interest story, and that besides the big story that we sell to you, but we're also telling you that this more, your money will give you a lot more than what we are showing you in this splash. Okay.
The question is, because this is a matter that's still in court, and you can't delve into that, but are you trying to suggest to Kenyans, okay, you be the judge? Angalia hizi picha utuambie ukweli.
Here the photos.
Yeah, they claim that photos speak more than spoken words, more than 1,000 words. So when you look at it, you make your own subjective judgment. But why again we give the sort of prominence that is given is because there was a development in court. If you read the story, you'll see that the judge directed that it's to be heard next year. So that development, I think the readers, our readers deserve to know that there's development in this front. And it's a very high profile story.
Yes, indeed it is. It's only that it doesn't feature on any other of the dailies today.
So that's why you need to read the Star.
Yes, you need to read the Star.
Remember.
Smart people read the Star. Yes.
And speak of which, Fred, as well, the fact that you say the Star really focuses on human interest stories. Yeah. The language used for the story on bishops seems a bit softened when you take a look at even how others have gone with. Why?
Well, I don't know why you call it soft, because if you look at, for example, the nations, and they basically talk about the same things, but we have chosen to focus on the human element of it, particularly the human rights aspect of it, talk about the alleged abductions, alleged killings, alleged torture. That's what we choose to nose it off with. Because at the end of the day, what's important to a story is the people. People like to read about people. And that's why we choose to give the human face of the story, even as we look at the political bickering. Because also to add, these allegations are not new. The claims that the president lies, the government don't say the truth, high cost of living, taxation, they're not necessarily new. But what for us stands out, and just to add that I cover human rights for the Star, and there has been so many reports. Human Rights Watch gave a report recently. Our vibrant civil society have been giving constant reports about human abuses. Kenyans, citizen journalism have also been showing unmarked cars plucking from the streets. So it's a worthwhile thing to shed light on it.
Okay, and today it appears that many people are struggling with how many words to use on the headline, because here's the full sentence. Bishops accuse state of human rights abuses. Another very long one, bishops take on Ruto over killings, graft.
This
is a very long, it's lies and more taxes, bishops blast Ruto's. We already have a photo of the bishops. Yeah. We know who spoke. Okay,
Catholic bishops, I mean, the Daily Nation also.
I think this is probably my best headline. It's quite short. Ni system ya maovu. Simple. Then Catholics, Ruto must stop lying. Why are people struggling with the sentences? Is it the headlines? Because I've seen a headline that has more than 6 words, I think, on the Daily Nation. And you wonder, a newspaper or journalist trying to play safe with some of these stories. Because you look like you're trying to explain yourself and saying, oh, sisi tumesema ni bishops wamesema, that's why you have to quote bishops, say. A simple line is tu, it's all lies. Would suffice.
Well, first, you guys are colleagues, and you know that a journalist must not be in the story. The newspaper is not the story is the source. So you must first attribute it. But also, most importantly, in my view, journalism or communications is an art. So you also want to see how do you play around with the words, how do you make it more catchy and more to be remembered. Yeah.
Because if we look at the papers from Uganda,
matters,
the Daily Monitor has a very different style from the New Vision. New Vision is very wordy, yes. But the Daily Monitor usually comes with very few words. Yes, one word headlines. So the question is, why are we getting so wordy? Why do we want to tell the whole story in one headline?
In headline, I think it's not like standards, case by case, because there are times when we have had just one line actually just one word headline or 2 words. So I think it's not a standard, but also depend on the house styles, of these papers. Like the Star, we have our own style, and other papers have their own styles, and also how to communicate to your audience what works. Yeah.
And now you say the Star, and it looks like we're putting you in the corner today, but there's the other big story that has to do with the health sector in Kenya. And I realize on the front page of the Star, I'm not finding any of that, even a small highlight. Yet there have been so many developments.
It actually focuses on 2 humanitarian stories there. The one on Nairobi listed as epicenter sexual violence, and special squad sent to Isili to tackle femicide.
Are we getting exhausted with this story, even as journalists, the story about the transition from NHIF to SHIF?
No, I don't think so. I think it's highlighted as part of this big story. If you read the paper, we have highlighted the teething challenges that come with it, and we're still trying to explore every angle to this story. So I think it's not to recede from the spotlight anytime soon, because health is such a critical issue. Kenyans approach us all the time, highlight my story. We are raising these millions to go to do this. And particularly right now with SHIF, it's gotten even a little more hard. So it's not to recede from the spotlight anytime soon. So I think if you don't see it today, probably you try tomorrow.
Because and it's not just a Star. I can see the stories are getting smaller and smaller space on the front page, and hence the question. Because I think it's the biggest discussion right now, not even just government performance, the health transition from NHIF to SHIF. So
and the developments that have come with so far.
Yes, I'm struggling to
the leadership being changed and all that.
And I'm looking for it in the Star, and unfortunately, Gordon. Okay, it's there somewhere.
But also, we are also to add that we also big on digital news. So you may also want to check the website of the Star. Okay. You must definitely find some interview, some long read about the story.
One thing that the Star is best known for is politics.
Yes.
And we do have the Siasa Pullouts today.
On Friday.
And I can see there's a story on Abagusi mulling a single party for 2027. How big of a story is this in terms of a national outlook?
You know, our politics is largely regional. I don't want to call it ethnic. So that as a way of strategy, the other day you saw one of our competitors said that Mount Kenya is mulling their own political party in the light of fallout of the UDA. So the importance, you may look at it as a small thing, but it is chipping out votes from some corner. Maybe it's the opposition, or maybe it's this other side. And then when people are huddled together in a particular political party, it's easy to toy them around or engage them in negotiation, or even to extract more from the negotiation table. Yeah, so it's a big deal. If you read the story, you'll see the dynamics, especially, you know, from next year, we'll talk about the next election.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ruto, Raila headache as Kisii leaders push for 2027 party. The other big story here has to do with the new deputy president. Yeah. And my question is, because they talk about Kindiki, a sharp legal mind who became the deputy president. But this is a piece written by the government spokesman himself. Yes. And it's not even generated from the journalist.
Opinion.
And I'm wondering how, because we'd seen the former deputy president could actually feature a lot in the newspapers. How interesting of a newsmaker is this deputy president?
2 weeks
later, he should still be very fresh in the minds of Kenyans. People should still be talking about him and what he does. Yeah. But looking at dailies,
the former deputy president,
he's still a bit more popular in terms of journalism. Is there a reason to that?
Largely, I probably think that the good professor is learning from where we copied the constitution in the US. As a vice president, he has only to be seen and not even to be heard. That's why we didn't even know who was the vice president for Trump in the first term. Of course, it was Mike Pence, but if you don't dig a little deeper, you'll not know. Who's the vice president for Uganda? We don't know. Who is the vice president for Tanzania? So as a number two, you're a spare tire. You're only to be seen and not to be heard. But probably the fact that we are still talking about Gachagua is maybe the reason for his downfall. He was talking too much, and maybe the powers that be got threatened. Who knows? But he was only 2 weeks into the job, so let's give him time. Maybe we'll make a fool of himself and we'll start talking about him getting kicked out, or he will remain decent and tame his tongue.
Are journalists really interested in a new deputy president?
Yes.
Do we have journalists who are just following the new deputy president and trying to see what he's up to?
Of course, it's being followed. We are following him. But again, you know, people in power, the way they manage the media, they only look for you when they're out of power or when they need some favors. But as duty bearers, as journalists, we follow duty bearers when and if possible, and if we're able to get hold of them.
Okay, because I can see the cartoon on the Star today, we do have it somewhere here, has a caricature of there's someone else. I think it's somewhere here.
It is, yes.
Of the former deputy president in the gym preparing for 2027 fitness gym. So his prospects, political prospects, are more interesting than the new deputy president who's not even 2 weeks old in the job. I'm thinking probably even the honeymoon phase is enough of a newspaper story, don't you think?
you know, power is not necessarily having the office. You can be more powerful even outside the office. And he's proving if he has the time and the momentum and the focus and the attention, that is, if he is skilled enough, he can be so powerful than even the person in office. Yeah.
Then there's also a lot of criticism on many papers and journalists talking too much about 2027 politics. Have we gotten there now, officially? You know, we've still not even crossed the halfway mark of this term, which will happen in March next year.
Plus also even for Kenyans, the kind of content they consume. Is it that they really consume a lot of politics? And as journalists, that is definitely what you're going to be serving them. Because when you look at regional papers, for Uganda and Tanzania, they rarely talk about their politics. They'd come up right now for Tanzania, the fact that preparing for the civic polls, you just mention them. But for Kenya, it's going to be most negative and politics there.
2027 is a big discussion.
Yes.
Only less than 2.5 years after the term began.
Yeah. Kenyans are a little more conscientious politically. They are politically alive and awake. And that's why in the region, we are known that that time I would travel to West Africa, and the only thing they talk about is Gen Z protest. Oh, you guys, you hold government accountable. You make American ambassador resign just by tweeting. So Kenyans are a lot more alive, and they consume more political news. But the difference is this, the analysis done at the Star, is that while Kenyans consume a lot of political news, they don't stay on it. They click, have the headline, first line, move on. But for human interest, however long it is, they'll follow it. It's a crime story. It's this human interest content. They take a little more time to consume. So yes, we are a political people.
All right, but let's take a look at the other cartoons today. Yes, politics on, I think this is a standard.
Harry's back.
Yeah, Harry is there. I think yesterday they didn't even have a cartoon. So Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka facing the mountain with a sign there saying, attention, 7 million votes up for grabs, climb mountain to register. Signed Mount Kenya region. There are some red flags up there. I don't know why they chose the color. So still political cartoon.
Yeah, of course.
But at least one human interest, People Daily chose to go with the issues to do with health.
Yes, they have a sick patient there seeking help, and a sinking hole there. The SHIF is lifting the hand, also yelling
asking for help. And this is the person who's supposed to save. So SHIF still not offering any relief to the patients. Finally, on the Daily Nation,
they're going with a headline that was there yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before?
The advisors.
Yes, and the number of advisors in State House.
So why are the advisors being depicted as vultures and pigs?
Pigs, yes. We're here looking for...
You're looking for experts, and they're looking at State House. So yes. So this is another big story. I don't know if we got to report on it, the number of advisors for the president.
It is. It's a big story, particularly we see the way David Ndii engage with the public in a manner that people are having mixed feelings about. But we'll see, because Kenyans increasingly feel that the advice may not really be helping much, given what the pain you're feeling in our pockets and collapsing public key services.
Okay, so people are feeling that the advisors are simply cashing in. All right, so grab yourself a copy of The Star this weekend. It has the Siasa pullout. They're talking about Kindiki, a sharply gold mind who became the deputy president. But the main story on the Siasa pullout is about Abagusi Marling single party for 2027. Thank you so much, Gordon Osien, journalist at The Star, helping us with this review of The Star. Very interesting photo on the front page of The Star today of the third president of the Republic, Mwai Kibaki, and a gentleman by the name Jacob Ochola, who claims to be former President Kibaki's biological son. Ukiangalia front page ni kama unaulizwa swali. Si ati wameuliza. They seem to be suggesting, wewe, you be the judge.
Be the judge, yes.
Thank you so much, Gordon, for that. All right. We promised to take a look at the traffic situation as we come back to this issue. And yes, we do have what's happening here on Kiambu Road. There was a problem there. And yes, now you can see it's building up.
Yes.
Because if you use Kiambu Road either towards Kiambu or towards town, that area directly opposite the AR hospital, which is just like 20 meters from where we are, they're erecting a billboard along the road. So this is definitely going to cause a lot of traffic, especially for those heading towards town, because the construction is on that side of Karura Forest, meaning there's only one lane available for both motorists going towards Kiambu and going towards town. Here ikiendelea hivi, it's at 6:33 a.m. by 7 hapa.
The whole red line will be down till...
It will go back huko na...
Huko.
So this may have provided some relief for this place, but although where Pangani in a build-up properly as well. The Pangani interchange is very busy as we speak, and this is extending also onto Muranga Road. Yeah. So yes, Pangani interchange is very busy as we speak right now. Finally.
Good road looking quite clear this morning.
But...
okay, some bits, some patches, lakini from Makadara ndio.
Pale ukishatoka Buruburu uingie Vijogoro hapo Makadara, Mbotela, another patch. Once you get to City Stadium, another patch as well. So quite busy Jogoro this morning.
Mombasa Road, hapo Expressway inakaa fiti. I think chini ndio. Some bits and...
Kidogo too, but
I think
Mombasa Road...
probably the traffic lights.
Langata Road not looking bad, Mbagathi Way 2, Ngong Road, Pale Prestige, Kweyo Interchange, Kawaida, but nothing much to report. Waiyaki Way into town, looking good as well. So the biggest problem today, this morning, in as far as city traffic is concerned, is what's happening on Kiambu Road. Ile ya pale Pangani hiyo si shida yetu tumezoea. But Kiambu Road, kama hujatoka nyumbani, expect quite some traffic hapo AAR Hospital.
Yes.
So we're just about to get down and take a look at the state of the nation. It's all lies. Sio mimi nimesema ni bishops or Catholic. That's a big headline this morning.
Bwana sifiwe.
Wadhani ya Rogosho. Yes.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other artists like Accuse and Autism, How to Farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
Morning Cafe with me, Fred Ndimuli. We continue looking at the headlines this morning, but before we do that, in a stinging statement yesterday, Catholic clergy took on the Kenya Kwanza administration of a myriad of grievances that it blamed for Kenya's continued suffering. This story was filed by one of our reporters, Micah Gongo from TV47. Let's watch it.
The increasing number of abductions, femicide and corruption amongst government officials have caught the attention of Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, who have at last broken their silence to call out respective government departments to act swiftly. Speaking here in Nairobi Thursday, the bishops denounced the administration of President William Ruto for alleged widespread corruption, excessive taxation and broken promises.
The government must protect the life of every human person in Kenya, as stipulated in our Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, Article 26. The government must take the lead in following the law, which the leadership took an oath to uphold and defend at all times.
In addition, the bishops criticized Kenya Kwanza administration, accusing it of unwillingness to form the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC), despite repeated requests from various interested parties. The bishops also accused government to not keeping its previous pledge to pay back the debts that the National Health Insurance Fund (NHIF) owed the religious institutions.
When the government fails to fulfill its promises, particularly concerning payments to essential service providers, it harms vulnerable communities. This is the case with NHIF.
In a quick rejoinder Thursday evening, the Ministry of Health refuted KCCB claims, describing them as misleading, erroneous and false. In a statement signed by Cabinet Secretary Deborah Baraza, the ministry said the defunct NHIF owed 19 billion shillings to various healthcare providers, debts accrued over a period of more than 10 years, as of 4th October of 2024. Baraza said the government is fully committed to settle these historical debts, and consequently in the last 1 month, 7.5 billion shillings was mobilized to pay these debts. So far, the Social Health Authority has disbursed more than 5 billion shillings to various providers, including 938 million shillings to health facilities owned by faith-based organizations, majority of which are Catholic Church-run institutions. According to Barasa, the government through the Social Health Authority will disburse the remaining 2.5 billion shillings by next week and is committed to progressively clearing all unpaid NHIF claims. In conclusion, Barasa noted that her ministry remains committed to providing transparent, accessible and affordable health care for all. The pressure, however, not only increases from clergy's end, but also from the opposition leaders. Following the objections made by parents and students, opposition leaders led by NARC Kenya Party leader Martha Karua urged that the new university funding model be immediately withdrawn.
Ruto and his administration have behaved the way locusts behave when they descend on greenery. They consume everything and leave nothing.
Opposition leaders claim that the William Ruto-led government has the ability to address the significant issues facing Kenya's education system, but has, however, chosen not to listen to common mwananchi. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Yes, that story filed by my colleague Mike Kagwango also forms the basis of most of the discussions on all the dailies this morning. On the front page of the Daily Nation, it's lies and more taxes, bishops blast Ruto's government. That's a big headline there. On the People Daily, Catholics say Ruto must stop lying. I think one of the more stinging headlines. On the Standard, bishops take on Ruto over killings and graft. It's the same headline even on the Star newspaper. The Star newspaper wamesema bishops accuse state of human rights abuses, and on Taifa Leo ni system ya maovu. Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning, beginning on my right. George Ngaira, governance expert. Karibu sana, Bwana Ngaira, to TV47.
Thank you very much for having me, Fred.
Bwana Ngaira, next to him we have Wanja Maina, founder of the Hummingbird Grassroots Center. Wanja, karibu sana, familiar face on this panel.
Hi, Fred. Good morning.
Hans Rop makes a comeback on the panel. Karibu sana, political analyst. And Josephat Kamanya, political analyst, also joins us this morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, the discussion now has gone back to the church. And finally, the church has spoken after a very long lull. The church had been making headlines earlier on, probably at the beginning of this year, probably because of its own working relationship with the administration of the day. Now we're seeing a marked shift from that kind of working relationship with what the Catholic Church has chosen to do. They've been quiet for quite a while. I think the last time they issued such a statement was last year, listing more or less the same grievances. In November last year, they listed high cost of living, overtaxation, jobless youth, challenges in the education system, protecting the dignity of Kenyans, rising insecurity, and stifling freedom of speech as some of the issues they had with the government back then. This year, same, overtaxation. Human rights violations, stifling freedom of speech, same thing. Corruption, culture of lies, that's a new one. Political wrangles, misplaced priorities. Bwana Ngaira, let's start with you. Listening to the church now, because the church had come under a lot of criticism. I know there are so many different segments when it comes to churches in Kenya, but collectively the church had faced a lot of criticism. Do you think it's time that the church is now regaining its space in the Kenyan society?
Thank you very much for having me, Fred. You know, finally Kenyans can begin to see a church that has come to its senses, because this country is largely a Christian state, even though we have some other diverse religious groups. And as Christians, we teach ourselves to be very truthful. And finally, the church has been true to its feelings, that the state of the nation is not what is being perceived, because Kenyans at the very bottom have a different story of exactly what's happening in the country. And particularly for established churches, because that's what you're trying to differentiate. the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, historically churches that have been in this country for quite a very long time and have an extremely long history of agitation. When you look at the history of the country from right after independence and then the struggle for multi-party, the new constitution, the church was in many ways at the heart of that struggle. And so when we came in, this particular regime, which came in a very godly manner, and it ran on a religious platform, and they said it's the government of God, and that anybody that does not believe in this particular government then does not believe in God, which is a terrible assumption to make because we all love our God differently. But I think we're in a better place now that the church, which is a critical ingredient of our society because most of us belong to churches. I believe, Fred, all of us understand that as kids, many of us were Christians, pretty much went through the Sunday school system. Then we had, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, those of us were schooling, then we had the CRE, the religious education. So throughout that particular system, you are taught certain values that as a human being you should be very alive to. And I think the church has picked up where it left just before this regime came in.
It's curious that you mentioned CRE and IRE, and when it comes to cases of exam cheating this year, most of them were around the religious exams. But back to the church, Wanja. Do you think that the church now is in a better position to redeem its reputation? Because earlier this year or sometime last year, we were used to headlines like Church on the Cross. Do you see that perception changing?
Thank you so much, Fred, and good morning to all our viewers of TV47. When I saw the presser by the Catholic bishops, I might first start by saying that I'm a Catholic, and therefore I was very curious to hear what my top church leadership is saying. Later on, it was raining press statements, left, right, and center. It reminded me of one of the memes by the Gen Zs. Class, does the pressure increase or decrease? I think they usually say it decreases. That joke. If the church, if the intention of which it was to be heard by the government, indeed, the pressure increased. Based on the many rebuttals and letters that were flying left, right, and center. Certainly most of them were defensive, reactionary, not talking about the real issues. But Fred, the church is at the center and at the pulse of society. Look at the Catholic Church, for example. The 2019 census tells us that there are over 9 million Catholics in Kenya. The Catholic has been seen as an oasis in the desert, particularly in regions. For example, Marsabit, the Catholic Church is very dominant. You'd think otherwise, considering that many people perceive that region to be Muslim, and there's no problem with being Muslim. If you go to informal settlements, if you go to a place like Mukuru, this Mukuru kwa Janga, Mukuru kwa Ruben, all those informal settlements in that region of Nairobi, you'll always find those Catholic communities. So when these Catholics are talking about the problem, you're talking about people who oversee 9 million people, who not only go to them to pray the rosary and to cry because they want to be close to God, but also to say, Father, mimi sina school fees. These Catholics run small community-led initiatives and clinics. They are seeing the pattern. I went here, I was given kidogo medicine. Now when I went for referral, I was told I need to come with a document they don't have. So the church, no doubt, is redeeming themselves. When I saw this presser, I also remember the NCCK has made their own presser. The evangelicals have been talking. Just the other day, one of the very respected evangelical, Teresia Wairimo, who I would say is an institution by herself, spoke in the church, and you remember how the social media went frenzy. There has been a law that has been introduced called the Mugatana Bill that is trying to manage and to deal with the religious institutions. And one of the things that Mugatana is recommending is the county government to regulate churches. And some of us are asking, if health, agriculture are devolved function and you have been unable to deal with them, how will you be able to regulate churches? Yet churches have mechanisms of self-regulation, and that's why we have the bishops and the archbishops as our top leadership. So is the church redeeming itself? Yes, because they are speaking the truth to power. It has been done in the past, and now they are trying to be on the right side of history.
Hans, Wanja mentioned the kind of reactions we've seen to this statement by the Catholic bishops, especially from government officers, including the National Police Service. And it would appear that the church's voice is quite powerful, that once the Catholic bishop spoke, then very senior officers, very senior politicians, even the police service found it fit to respond to that. Definitely, this is not a voice that can be ignored.
We cannot ignore Fred. When you talk of a Catholic Church in Kenya, it's a big church. And we see the top leadership raising issues and trying to correct the government. It's not something you can take it lightly. It's in the headlines of the newspapers today. But there are things I want to ask myself, like, is the intention of the church really for Kenya or for themselves? Because when you see the reaction that we are being given from the government officers, is that one of the reasons why the church are going forward to complain is because some of the NHIF money have not been remunerated to their hospital, the church-sponsored hospitals. So it gives me a thinking to ask myself, are you if it wasn't affecting you, would you have come forward? Are you here because you want to be paid by NHIF, or what was the intention? Because you realize, if you see the kind of coming together they have come, it means they have a common goal, which means probably they could be facing a problem in running the hospitals, and they feel that they should be paid by the government. And now they want to bring many issues, but the intention is to receive remunerations, which maybe NHIF hasn't done to them. We've discussed the challenges that are there in NHIF. We've seen the cases that have been even covered in the media of operation of an hospital, small hospital in Kiambu, doing over 20 operations and want to be paid by NHIF. It means there's been cartelism, and therefore the government is trying to find another way they can help. We are not saying that the government has done it perfect. There are weaknesses that we think the church has a right to correct the government on the weaknesses they had. But we want to see pure honesty. We don't want to feel as if like there are some of the things that are pushing them to do. We want to feel people who want to journey and make their country better. We want to see leaders who want to correct the government and want to see the government progressing. We shouldn't pull the government that we want to kill it. If we kill this country, we have nowhere else to go. And lastly, to add it to Fred, is we need to be knowledgeable enough. We've come from somewhere. We know the kind of government that we've had before. We know the challenges that the current government inherited. And you know what it takes to handle them. You cannot handle them within a year or two. You must have a plan to sort them out. We know the kind of economic problems we've been facing. For instance, issues of infrastructure, roads that have been built all over the country, over 10,000 kilometers, is a loan-based. Issues like SGR is loan. Most of them are maturing now. You have to pay those loans. And you also have to reduce issues of borrowing. How do you manage to pay? You have to increase taxes. Okay? So you try and increase taxes so that at least you save the country from debt, and you also manage the debts that are there that have been taken before. So it might have looked sweet in the previous government because the loans were not yet mature. Now that we have a mature loan, it means when you have been handed over the government, you have to think what to do. And that's why it's becoming much difficult and struggles to grow. And those are facts we must accept so that we don't lie to each other and give each other false image, false stories, and false proofs. We need to be honest that we may have facts that can help us.
Speaking of honesty, it's one of the accusations that the Catholic bishop said that this administration is full of lies. It is there on the front page of the Daily Nation. It's not my words. They are their own statement. Let's take a break right now. I'll come back with Josephat Kamanya after this to continue this discussion. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I met the stress on education.
At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore.
It's lies and more taxes. Bishops blast Ruto's government is a big headline on the Daily Nation today. It's a conversation we've started with my panelists. We want to continue with the same. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Josephat Kamanya, karibu sana to this conversation. Hans Ropp says, and correctly so, that probably the Catholic Church and the Catholic bishops have been urged or pushed to this by some selfish interests, because yes, they do run a number of schools, they run a number of hospitals as well, that have interacted with the Social Security, Social Health Insurance and National Health Insurance Fund. And yes, on the issue of pending bills, they're among those who are claiming that they are owed quite some billions by the NHIF. But can that in itself dismiss the issues that they've raised?
Well, a very good morning to our viewers. You know, it's a jolly good, feel-good rainy Friday. So I want to urge our Kenyans to share the road wisely and safely, you know, indicate and ride safely. And now, it's very interesting that we have been served with a huge dossier of response from the government. And therefore, the statement from the bishops must have sparked quite a, must have touched a nerve. But how I'm seeing it is that the Catholic Church mainly is a large stakeholder in this country. And they are in each and every sector, from health to education to business. And they're feeling the pinch of the economic decline that we are all experiencing as a country. Further to that, you'd realize that the church for a long time has been the custodian of morality. That was the essence of having the state and the church since the inception of governance. And over time, the church has seemed to be losing the grip on morality. And I think more than anything else, they were speaking to the moral concern and attitude of the current administration. because bills are owed to everyone. You know, we all have pending bills that have not been paid. But when they talk about a government of lies, that the lies need to come to an end, that should be a huge concern to all Kenyans. And I think they're trying to reclaim their moral position as a church and hopefully call the government to order. Because indeed, we have experienced a promise after a failed promise after the next. We've experienced a lot of government officials, including the president himself, coming out to try and convince Kenyans that the system and the administration is working, which is just an exercise in futility, because if it were working, they would not need to come out and convince anybody, you know. You would be feeling that the health sector is working, the hospitals are running, the schools, everything is okay, the road, the security, the abduction are not happening. It would be self-explanatory to each and every Kenyan. Therefore, I think the bishops were quite in order to come out for once and speak what Kenyans are experiencing. Unlike before, where they have betrayed Kenyans. Because you remember, like during the onset of the Gen Z revolution, the first bunch of people to visit State House were the clergy. And, you know, and Kenyans were frowning at that and asking why. What is the essence of inviting the clergy? Therefore, I want to encourage the church to continue assuming their rightful position, you know, calling out not just the government, but also trying to give a moral direction of the country.
Okay.
Yes.
The Catholic bishops have talked about the culture of lies as one of the big issues here. We are in a situation where, if you look at most of the rebuttals or statements that have been sent, it's simply saying, no, that's not true. From the police, no, this is not true, this is not true. A cabinet dispatch yesterday talked about how good the economy is doing, that we're on the right track. There was a cabinet meeting yesterday chaired by the president himself. After that, the dispatch to media houses talked about how rosy the situation is. And that is the same thing, because many Kenyans are not feeling this positive economic outlook. And one wonders, is this government defensible? The fact that they defend themselves, they've been accused of lying, they come out and say the same thing over and over, yet the Kenyans are feeling something different. What the Catholic bishops are talking about is exactly what the Kenyans are feeling.
You know, Fred, the President of the Republic of Kenya was in Kwale presiding over a national event. And in that specific event, he went ahead to point out, among the many other projects that the government is doing, was the Diani White House project that is right across the next sub-county. And he said the project is ongoing and creating unbelievable number of jobs. Unbelievable number of jobs. That means you can't even count. Yet, right next after that, it was captured that the same place that is purporting to be creating unbelievable number of jobs is a site that was actually abandoned a long time ago, that you even have not just bushes and grass, but actually trees growing in the same place, right next to where the president is just alluded to. That can't be a lie, Fred. It's real and it's visible and everybody can see. And it has been the culture of this government, because you see what Kenyans need, they just need to be served. It just needs to be served so that they can be able to get, if the young people can be able to create jobs, make some money, take care of their families, Fred, that is all that counts. But when you have a government that is unable to take its mandate back to basics of serving the Kenyans, because Kenyans don't have all these things that you've been seeing listed on this newspaper, Fred, can only be bundled into three important things that the government has not done. And that is the issue of wastage of public funds, tribalism in government, and corruption. Those are three things you can't even have. If we go and just do a quick audit, we did a quick audit of the State Department, that the cabinet has about 22 cabinet secretaries, and do an audit of how ethnic diverse it is. It's not a secret when you look at how balanced that is. In a country that is considered to having at least 45 communities. Just the 22 cabinet positions and I think 51 state departments that we have. And maybe European, there are about 288 CEOs that we have for state departments. Just those three things, three departments, and do an audit of that. You can't even hide about it. I think we're in a better place now, that institutions that have a bigger audience that can and are as visible as the church and many other civil societies are able to come in back and hold this government into account, because most of the things that are being said, the government cannot defend him because it's openly a lie.
But as Bwana Kamanya said, these church leaders have had a very, and it had access to State House. Immediately after the Gen Z protests, even the Catholic bishops themselves were at State House. The Anglican Archbishop has been to State House. All these other bishops have gone to State House. When they come out in public to talk about this, yet we know very well that they have access, direct access to the president, then questions of how genuine they are do arise. Why do you think they opted to come out publicly, yet 2 months ago they were in State House?
You know, Fred, sometimes when you're doing your lobbying, sometimes you start with the courtesy call. Sometimes you start with, can we have a cup of coffee? Sometimes we start with, can we have a half a day Zoom call? Can we have this and that? I want to believe that the clothes, the seams of the cloth, you know, the center can no longer hold. Things have fallen apart. And this is because Kenyans have also started becoming very aware of their civic rights. When they see the bishops in the State House, you know, they ask, when imeenda kusanitize government, what was the outcome of those meetings? So in my view, the Catholics, you know, the nature of the church, they are quite amiable. They try to pray and to use diplomacy of sorts. So I feel like really Shuv has come to push. You know, Fred, some of these things we experience in Kenya, sometimes we usually wonder, where do these, you know, government officials live? You know, the other day I was telling my friends, sometimes I like to eat in some places that other people would call akibanda, where I go to eat. And I know the specific food I like to eat. There's a lady who usually, my favorite one, there's a lady who usually serves me. One of the things, how I know the food is good is because I usually see her eating. She'll walk like this with her chapati. She's having half a cup of tea, making fun with me and others, walking round and round. I'm assured that if she can eat her own food, then I'm good. It is a good standard, a way of making the standards. Most of the people who make policies for the government facilities do not go there when they are sick. Mm-hmm. Most of the people who are making CBC curriculums and the transition, most of the people who are making the university funding models, their children are studying in Australia, America, and other high-level institutions and private education. So sometimes you ask yourself, if they cannot trust the services they give the children of your average mwananchi, how then do you differ with a parent who is saying that ECBC iko na kashida? If, you know, I know of a teacher who is a JSS teacher. When she went to KU, she studied English and literature. She's somewhere in Western Kenya, and she teaches other subjects, including agriculture. So she'll tell us, me, I was given grade 7 students. We are just the two of us. They are doing 16 subjects. So that teacher, in as much as she loves her job, I mean, agriculture is not her strength. She has to study music on the internet to teach those children. So the government officials do not consume the services of education and health. Should I trust them or should I trust the teachers and the government? Yes. No, Fred, the other day I told my friend, maybe there's another constitution in Kenya that we don't know. So I told her, English has become hard. Get me the Kiswahili constitution so that I understand it. And one of the articles that I'm very interested in is Article 43. It says, kila mtu mwananchi akona haki ya kupata kiwango cha juu zaidi kiwezekanacho cha afya, kiwango cha juu zaidi kiwezekanacho, highest attainable standard of health. But then again, when I open my newspaper here, I'm saying you have to pay out of pocket. When you tell people you have to pay out of pocket, and we have established that dialysis is 9,300, I'm sure most of the dialysis patients, unless there is a drastic, urgent recalibration of that thinking, they are just going to die. Why? It's not your average homestead that is going to afford 18K because they get 2 to 3 services in one week. Those are the things that are making us wonder, why is the Ministry of Health so reactionary?
Yes, and Hans, could it be that the president is in a position where he's so much insulated from a lot of what is happening right now? Yes, we see a lot of people going to State House, and we just don't know the kind of result or what they communicate to the president. Even the cabinet meetings and the dispatch that comes from there is all rosy. The health ministry saying that SHA is doing so well and that the registrations have already hit 14 million going up. On the ground, things are very different. You just look at the dailies and everyone is talking about the problems facing SHIF and the whole SHA. And one wonders, is the president properly appraised with what's happening on the ground? Or could we be in a situation where, just like the Catholic bishops who've been to State House and realized that probably they couldn't communicate properly there, they end up coming out to say the truth out here?
Fred, you know, at times I study the character of our country and its people, and I realize we have a lot of crook people. One, you know, all these people have access to president. President probably can pick their calls or respond to their missed calls. And whenever they access president, they never raise these issues. When people get a chance to meet the president, they raise their personal issues. We live in a country whereby people are more of themselves. Even as I listen to Anja, if today she gets a chance to be a leader in this country or opportunity, she'll still take her children outside the country.
How sure are you?
But then, this is Kenya. It is in public domain. I don't need to prove that. But anyway, we love eating up the government when it's not on our hand. The same people who are fighting the government today are people who enjoyed the same privileges in the previous government, and they didn't want to be questioned. You get it? When I listen to what the church is saying and whatever they are raising, there's some sense. But I want to know the honesty behind them. Going forward, today, we are questioning on how the government is working. Our people in Kenya maybe are more exposed than they were before. This country is running so fast ahead. Democracy is going to another level. In the next few weeks or months, you will listen to them how they are hitting on the government, on the churches now. We know churches are getting offerings, tithes, love offerings, wherever. And soon, people want to know how their money is being used. You see these kind of billions that government holds, the Catholic hospitals and so on. How are this money managed? How do they pay their taxes? How do they offer their services? So all I would say is this: before you fight someone else, you will also know that it could be coming your way. But let's understand
this. Why are you saying that this is a fight? Because whatever they are raising, on one hand, you say they're legitimate concerns. Mm-hmm. So why is it a fight?
It is a fight in the sense whereby they are doing it for their own gain. They want that money. If today the government pays Catholic, their NHIF,
they would go quiet.
You'll not find them you'll find them in State House going to eat lunch with the president and so on. They'll not find the government. That's why I'm telling you, whatever we are going through is all about personal.
It's all about the pending.
And lastly, let me tell you one thing. Yeah, even those in the opposition today, they're fighting the government because they're outside. We used to see whatever ODM used to do. Now they're in the government. They think the government is doing so well. Okay. Bring Kalonzo to the government. The government will be doing well. Take them out. You will see the response from Rigiji going forward. The government is doing bad. Why? Because it's not in the government. So it is all about me. Okay. Kenya is not yet at a state whereby somebody can sacrifice for others.
And there's some truth to that, but does it illegitimize the concerns that are being raised by Kenyans? If you look at the front page of the Standard, and it's simplified what the Catholic bishops are saying. Critical issues: chaotic healthcare program, university funding mess, confusion in the CBC rollout. Those are just three. Of course, there are others like abductions, overtaxation, and issues to do with the economy. But these issues afflict every person, not just a political class. In fact, when it comes to the mwananchi on the ground, it does not matter which region you come from, which political affiliation you stand for. It is a problem that afflicts everyone the same way. Does the fact that there could be some selfish interest by the Catholic bishops in raising the concerns because of the pending bills illegitimize these concerns that the normal mwananchi could be facing on the ground?
Well, far from it. And I think it's very unfortunate to try and blame the victim for having sort of made themselves vulnerable. If the Catholic Church is in business, which we know they are in terms of education, health, and all other areas of their interest, they deserve, like any other Kenyan, to be paid. We cannot accuse, in this case, the Catholic Church of selfish interest when they're standing for their own rights. Their rights have been violated. The right to just decency and humane treatment from a government, just like any other Kenyan, have been violated. I think it's a bit of a pedestrian talk to try and say they're doing this for their own selfish interest, where else we know the reality we are facing in the country. It behooves even the president himself to realize that whatever rusty pipes he's using to deliver water, it's not working. They're contaminating the water. If it's a communication part of it, because this is what they're trying to say, that the bishops are lying, we are working, and this is how we are working, you know, like the government delivers, which really is not accurate. It behooves the president to realize that currently what he needs to do is to do what is right by Kenyans. He does not need to keep on continuing to kind of vindicate himself and play this defensive game. It's not going anywhere. Secondly, I believe that a dictatorship is always fair until it turns against you. True. And this is where you see the defenders of this administration coming out and trying to say, we saw the engineer, Oscar Sudi, turning against the vice chair of the Catholic bishops, Bishop Muheria, that, you know, the guy is wrong or lying. And yet the same bishop was very consistent in the previous regime when he was talking about the river where bodies were being found. So he's been very critical for standing up for Kenyans. But the defenders of the government, they're now attacking the people who really want just good governance and fair justice for all Kenyans. It is unfortunate, because once this government turns against them, then they'll call it a dictatorship. But at what point do we come out as Kenyans and say that this is what is fair? It is only when we abide by the Constitution. All the rights, freedoms, values are enshrined in our Constitution. Number one, as Wanja says, is provision of the highest attainable level and quality of health. You know, now we're talking about SDG number 6, about water and sanitation. We saw them in COP29 trying to, you know, bring billions for investment. Where will that money go? To Nairobi River? I doubt. But of essence is to realize that it should always be about the public policy. The president knows the people are dissatisfied. The church has cowed out.
Does he know?
I believe he does. That's why he comes out and tries to tell people, let's not be negative. Let's try now to work and stop the politicking. You remember after the his immediate speech, after the impeachment of the former deputy president, that's what he was talking to. But I believe over and above everything that the president now needs to realize that as the church is saying, there is a moral deficit, not just a trust deficit. There is a huge moral deficit in the government. Kenyans have no faith. Kenyans have no hope in this administration. Okay. He has to do the right thing. If it means doing a whole reshuffle, a whole firing and hiring of new faces, because ultimately the buck stops with him. And remember, the hashtag Ruto must go is still very active.
Yes.
So how do you defend? How do you defend that?
I'm looking at another highlight on the front page, one of those news pieces of news that have received some prominence on the front page of the Standard, and it's what the cabinet said. Economy has stabilized after measures. According to the Catholic Church, cost of living is too high, overtaxation and such like things. So when the cabinet is quick to communicate stability or a positive outlook on what's happening in Kenya, and is it an attempt to delegitimize these concerns by Kenyans? Because on one hand, Kenyans know what they're feeling, but the government keeps telling you, no, actually things are good.
I think characters who are still living in the past are the ones that every time we want to raise national issues which are very important, they always try to reduce it into a personality contest. And I'm just happy that Kenyans, we are heading to a situation where we are going to define what leadership is in the years to come. On June 25th, when we had the Gen Z demos, Fred, that very day in town, I was on a different station when we were doing an interview, and just after the show, around 10, I was seated with some young men who I think were being interviewed. They are part of the Gen Zs of that particular day. And there was a young lady there who was on TikTok. And as at the time when we began to talk from around, say, 10, 11, she was live with about 5,000 people, so 5 or 10,000 people. 3-4 hours later, she was live with 120,000 people. 120,000 people, Fred, is almost filling near a stadium, 30,000 people 5 times on a small phone. That means with 100 shillings of data, she's able to do what you call civic education with almost 3-5 stadiums, which would cost you almost 100 million if you had to physically assemble 120,000 people. We're living in different times, and those who want to equate public discourse into a personality contest, so that if Ngaira says what is clearly out there for people to see, that there's an outpatient crisis in hospitals, and that there are people who are going to hospitals and can no longer get what used to be the NHIF services, is not a contest between Ngaira and William Ruto. It's not a contest between Rift Valley and the Western region where I come. It's a public issue that must be addressed. And the issues that have been put in place here, Fred, are not rumors. It is not a rumor when you walk to a shop and you're trying to get breakfast for your family and you see that the prices are not the same. It is not a rumor when you want to fuel and go to a gas station and you have to pump fuel in a vehicle or even pay for fare to get here. The prices will hit you home, you understand? It is not a contest, it's not a contest between personalities. I truly believe that where we are now as a people, particularly the Kenyan people, we are slightly more educated and more informed, and we are living at a path where, as voters and as Kenyans, we are going to reach a level where we are going to understand what is called the opportunity cost of choosing leaders, which has been the challenge. Every time we go to elections, sometimes has been, Fred, that it's a contest between this person, and yet we forget to put the issues that are at play on the table. And so today, the church has done what I was looking forward to for many years, and the young people attempted to do it to the Gen Z, and other established institutions that we have and the civil societies must go to a place whereby any time we have a public discourse, we put the interest of the country first. The issues that have been raised here by the church are not unusual to any Kenyan, including even my brother who has come here. He knows the cost of fuel, he knows the cost of fire, he knows how much he's paying for rent. Those are issues that have nothing to do with a personality, the way they're trying to allude that, my brother Rob here is saying that the reason why the Catholic Church is raising these issues because they've not been paid their NHIF issues. It's not a lie that we have wastage in government. It's not a lie that we have a trouble in issue of ethnic diversity in government. It's not a lie that there is massive corruption in government. That is not a personality contest, my brother Fred.
Okay.
Understand?
Wanja, let's focus on this social health assurance and social health insurance fund, for example. Today marks exactly 45 days after the official rollout on October 1st. The issues don't appear to be improving. This week, we saw the suspension of the CEO of SHA, meaning that it's an indication that even the structures and the rank and file do realize that there is a problem. The board of the SHA has also called for the sending home of quite a number of top managers of this fund. It speaks to the same, that the problems that are out here and are becoming so evident probably began with the structures within. That in itself could be an indication or a self-inward looking by the government and the administration that there's something that needs to be fixed. When there's such a realization?
You know, Fred, sometimes we say things don't go wrong, they start wrong. From the very beginning, if you look at this transition of SHA, there were court cases. In fact, this transition, there was a three-bench judge. English is not my first language. The unionists had gone to court, the activists had gone to court. So initially, before even we moved, we were forced into this SHA, there were already issues that had been raised. If only the government looked at the issues that have been raised. We say, even by any other name, a rose would smell as nice. Whether we call it SHA, whether we call it NHIF, whether we call it what, that is just a name. A name is just a name. The issue here is the capacity of our public systems, the quality of the people who are being treated, and the money given to counties. Every time we talk about this SHA, health, nini, may I start from the beginning? Health is a devolved function. So for as long as the governors are saying that they have not received their devolution money, anything you do at the top, firing who or who, at the end of the day, an individual in a rural community, all they care about health is when they go to the local clinic, they'll get medicine without being told to pay out of pocket. Fred, the government cannot continuously be at war with their own people. it's like you're antagonizing your employers because the Kenyans are the employers of the government. Yesterday, you know, those letters that were coming fast and furious, rebutting what the Catholics have said, most of them, they looked like they are conflicting what the Catholics are saying or highly defensive. Then you ask yourself, Fred, if the government is saying that we are doing well, and you know, I like to look at it basics. In Kenya, around 82% of people are in the informal economy. There are people who wake up like this and anaweza 1,000. Amuke hivi apate 500, kesho zero money. 82% of the population of your country, that's where your majority is at. Even when you look at policies, you have to look at where your many people are, people in the informal economy. Now, if you say that the people are doing well, assuming that me in my informal economy and how I was doing, I was able to make around 30,000 shillings a month. However irregular it is, bora it's 30K, fair enough. Even if that's what I used to make in 2022 and now, then you have to ask yourself, what could 30K do for me then? And what is 30K doing for me now? Because the issue is not really about the money, it's about how much money you spend for the same services. Fred, we are 4 of us here, and I like to look at it in a very simplistic way because, you know, sometimes they confuse us with a big English. We are 4 of us here, Fred, in this panel. Gaira has 10 shillings, Wanja has 8, Hans has 6, and our friend at the end has 0. If the government is talking because they do a lot of public publicity, they'll just take the sum of money that we have and then they do an average. So they'll say, the Kenyans are so happy because they have an average of 6 shillings. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of lies in averages because with his 10 shillings, Gaira is doing well. But who's talking about Kamanya, Kamanya, who is at 0? When you talk about averages, you have to ask yourself, every time they tell us the economy is doing well, they have to tell us about the status of public goods. That way we can be able to say that the education system is doing well, therefore there is free primary education, the healthcare and the SHA that we've been talking about, water basics. You know, when you go to Nairobi, some of us walk around, the balconies that should have flowers where we should unwind and watch the sun is full of yellow mitungis. You know, you ask yourself, these Kenyans buy one motungi at 50 bob, 45 bob, 20 bob. I mean, for a household that keeps buying water, that's a lot of money if you look at it per month. So when you say that we are doing well is the economy, you're also telling us that Kenyans are paying a lot out of pockets for public goods. Yeah. How do you cost that?
Yes. Page 5 of the Daily Nation has a story about the cabinet and what they said yesterday. Economy is on right track, says cabinet. And there's another quick highlight there. A scorecard, 14 million Kenyans have registered with SHA. The story talks about so many rosy things, and at the very end they said, meanwhile, Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barasa said the government takes great exception to the misleading, erroneous and false statement issued by the Catholic Church. Dr. Barasa said the government is committed to settle the debts that NHIF owes faith-based hospitals. And this is simply in reaction to what the bishops are talking about. But if we focus on matters health, is it right for the Cabinet Secretary to keep insisting that things are well? To keep insisting that everyone who says there are problems with the SHIF and SHA, that they are simply misleading the public? It is members of the public who are feeling this. If at all they are not feeling it, they would not be lied to that. You cannot be told you are unwell if you're not. You know yourself.
Whatever you've read, Fred says, economy is on track. I think we need to understand that in English well. They haven't said that the economy is stable. They have said the economy is on track. It's on track to stability.
I think a different headline on the Standard, it says economy has stabilized after measures.
So, to my opinion is that I follow what the Daily Nation says. The economy is on track to stabilize. You know, even when we observe in Mother's Health the issues about SHA from NHIF, it's on the kind of policies that have placed in SHA that are going to serve Kenyans better than NHIF. The economy currently is more pinching, it's more painful, it's more hurting maybe than before. So we have we have a rebellious character to anything. Anything seems to be painful. If anything happens, we want to react over it. If anything happens, we have to react over it. I would wish we give this SHA a chance and see how it impacts Kenyans.
Okay.
I would rather wish we see how SHA is going to do other than fighting it before even it begins. And let me tell you one thing. Today, we have a serious following in online. I was following even what George had mentioned earlier about the issues of Kwale. Okay? If somebody today goes to online and gives a false statement, like we all know, those kind of proofs came from this gentleman called Morara. When somebody goes and gives maybe a false statement online, it influences many people to imagine that, honestly, that's how the government is, or that's exactly how it runs. All I would love to do, is let's give these policies that have been placed in, we see how it works.
It is 45 days. You say 45 days is too early? When it comes to matters of life and death.
Let me tell you one thing, Fred. We know the challenge. If you follow the challenges that NHIF is facing and what SHA is bringing to us, we need to be more patient to wait for this 45 days actually of implementation and making sure that everything happens is small. You know, let me tell you, as you implement, there are also rebellion. It's not that as you implement today a government project, it works automatically as it is. As we talk even on issues of corruption today, as much as we think the government is corrupt, even somebody who helps you to get an ID in a place, for example, like Busia, will still want a 1K that you'll still ask you, give me 1K, I'll make sure you get it within a short time. So corruption is disputed in this country. And one of the reasons why SHA is being fought is that it is being fought and funded by people who have been benefiting from the NHIF scandals.
Let me tell you, these things not things that would have been fixed, these fights you're talking about before the rollout? Because yes, you talk about fight, you talk about resistance. Are these things matters or issues or challenges that would have been fixed before an official rollout? Because some of these patients who are now not receiving services were receiving services under NHIF. Yeah. Now they're not. Bwana Kamanya.
Well, you know, my brother Hans, I like reminding him that the people of Misop, they watch this show and they hear what he's saying. And they're waiting for him in 2027. It would have been my hope that he goes to that parliament to represent them accordingly. But from the likes of the statements he's making, it's very alarming to Kenyans for any person to purport that the people who are fighting SHA are the beneficiaries of the corrupt NHIF system. That is not correct. The people who are complaining are Kenyans who are dying. We've had to contribute money to patients who had to pay for dialysis and other services that they could not access because of this new model. And it is very unfortunate that we can fail to agree on a need for good governance and proper provision of care and services from the government. We can differ on everything else, but at least let's be decent enough to agree that we all deserve good governance, which starts from proper utilization of our resources. This SHA is not free. It is paid for by Kenyans. That's why there's a contributory aspect to it. And when the government is unable to manage that system, that is failure of a government. That is a very illegitimate government. And I believe of all the other things that we deserve as Kenyans is just basic human health services. The new program that they have proposed, one, every time they fail, we are losing people to death. Every time they have failed to deliver services on time, illnesses and other conditions have exacerbated, have become worse. And people have had to pay from out of pocket, as Wanja is saying. And other people are unable to access the health services, leading to what? I mean, stress, depression, among other factors that are happening at the household level. So we must agree, at least for once, that this government and this model of the SHA is not working. I would beg to ask a question. When somebody tries to say that 45 days is a short time and that we should allow them more time to implement, where did the feasibility study focus? report, where did the report go? Where were all these multi-agency meetings and that were happening to launch the Social Health Authority? And then the insurance fund, what were they working on? What were they doing? Why is the transition experiencing so much teething problems? Yet we had a functional NHIF. It may have had its own challenges. But then who is the regulator? It is the same government. How could they not flag the pilferage, the misuse of the resources? And if they really needed to transition us to a new outfit, they should have worked on the internal factors, making sure that people are well listed, making sure that people are able to access services, and then just do a simple rebranding of NHIF to whatever, Shisha, whatever they may want to call it, after. But the service provision ought to have been seamless. This is one area we cannot debate about. The government is failing. It has let Kenyans down. We are losing Kenyans. Actually, I think people need to start taking responsibility. The CS Health, that's just 101 incompetence. She needs to be fired or resign.
That's a question I wanted to ask. Is it an issue of incompetence? The fact that, yes, right now, the deductions that go towards funding this model is more than 3 times what people are being deducted to pay for this, meaning there's more money available to fix even the challenges that were there in NHIF. Yeah. Is it an issue of competence?
Absolutely, and I think, Fred, the challenge that we're having in rolling out of the new social health insurance program is equally the same challenges that we've had with the CBC program, where you have a concept that is very good, has been well thought out and how it was supposed to be.
Looks good on paper.
On paper, that's what I'm saying, because then it means the motive was good. When you say that we need to have an academic system that is able to look at diverse strengths of individuals, so that it's not just the paperwork, but I could be not talented in academics, but I could be the best basketballer in the world and still be a millionaire. Whoever thought like that didn't make any mistake. The mistake was now when it comes to implementation because of 3 things. One, and it touches on both things, the Social Health Insurance Fund, and I think even the CBC, was that they were supposed then to look at what is the process of implementing that as far as the physical infrastructure is concerned, so that when you have 1,450 wards across the country, what would be the cost of the additional infrastructure that is needed, and you give it a loose quote. For example, if I give it 100 million, that means that you need 145 billion shillings to be able to regularize the kind of infrastructure that is needed to roll such a program. Then the human infrastructure, then how many more teachers or how many doctors or medics do we need then to be able to implement that particular force? Then again, that comes in with the numbers. So for example, 10 more doctors would mean 14,500 new medics being brought into that system. Those are the things that are supposed to do. So when it comes to implementation is where we have the challenge, largely because of either unpreparedness, because sometimes you want to rush programs because for political bonga points, so that you can come in and say, we have this wonderful program that's going to create a platform where young people can then be able to tap their potential in very many other ways. That's a good thing on paper if you sell it. It's the same with the Social Health Insurance Fund, because indeed there are some challenges with the NHIF and how it was being rolled out, and then you have other people who unfortunately maybe are suffering from terminal diseases or not covered very much. Those issues were valid on paper as they were raised, but when it comes to implementation, because either they came in too early, because then immediately they rolled out the program. You know, I wanted to tell Rob here, maybe he hasn't been to any hospital or any clinic since they rolled out that program. I was at home, particularly in the rural areas, where you have medical facilities that hadn't quite been integrated into that process. So they would say, we agree that program has been rolled out, but we as an institution haven't quite adapted that process. So for today, you're going to have to pay for your services. That's the reality. It's not a contest between Bishop Muheria and President William Ruto and Chief. So the challenge has been, my brother Fred, has been the implementation of those programs, because the ideas are really good in as far as the reinventing of that social health insurance scheme, but we have had a problem with with how it's implemented, and I think that remains the challenge that we have.
Did this administration underestimate some of its ambitions? Because these are 3 probably, okay, fine, CBC, they found it already rolled out. That's something they cannot be accused of doing, but the university funding model and the way it has disenfranchised a huge section or demographic of our Kenyan youth. Now, this chaotic rollout of SHIF, very ambitious, very radical shifts in how things were run, but it would appear that they were completely unprepared for some of the challenges they're facing now.
You know, Fred, it's one thing to be advised about something, it's another to take advice. I describe what was happening at around when they were saying that we are transitioning. In what the Gen Z says, there were scenes that preceded these unfortunate events. Litigation, activists talking, unionists and doctors talking, civil society talking, litigation, and all those scenes were describing major challenges that could have been taken into account. You know, Fred, sometimes you sit down and you wonder, why are they working upside down? Yesterday was the World Diabetes Day, a global day, and the theme was around breaking barrier, bridging gaps, and what have you. And I was reading a bit about diabetes, and there are over 2 million Kenyans who have been diagnosed with diabetes, and maybe others that have not been diagnosed. Now, your average individual, maybe who might, depending on their diabetes, who might need insulin, they need a life-saving medicine because the insulin that is naturally produced in the body of the people without diabetes, they need to get it from their government. That person cannot wait for the teething problems of 45 days so that they get their dose of insulin. When we go to these places in Nairobi, we hear there's a shortage of TB medication. Those are life-saving medication. TB can potentially swipe out a village if it's not well managed. Fred, you know, when you see Kenyans talking like this, when the bishops are talking, and then on the other hand, you see wanton wastage by government. The president has traveled to over 30 countries in the last 21 months, for example. 50 countries. 50 countries. You see the number is growing by the day, 50 countries. Now, if you have traveled to 50 countries in 20 months or 21 months, it means that you have spent lots of millions traveling abroad. One would say in the age of technology, must you travel yourself? Can you delegate people? Can you attend the conference via virtual call? So Kenyans are wondering, you are telling us to exercise austerity, to relax, yet you are traveling and making fun. Fred, you know, health and medicine is not something you do for fun. It's not like how on weekends we hop from one club to another enjoyment. You cannot wake up and say, let me pass by Mama Lucy, I take 1 cup of insulin, I have some enjoyment inside of a dialysis machine. When people go to hospitals, and you know even our health-seeking behaviors, as Africans we like to make ourselves strong. So ukikohoa kwanza unasema, wacha kwanza nikunywe ndimu. So by the time an individual is coming from their home to the hospital, that person is even sick ×2. Because ideally, even in other countries, there should be some form of preventive measures. You go to see your doctor at least twice a year so that they can detect your problems. But in Kenya, because we're already struggling, we go when we are almost dying or very sick. I mean, how do you reconcile that with issues of saying these are teething problems? And I wish to advocate for people with dialysis. And it is a story I saw on media of a man who is like 70. And he was crying and it was brought. It's not every day that you want to see a 70-year-old crying. But the man is saying that he has not received his dialysis. And you can just tell that if 2 days or 3 end, this person can die. Why? Because they have some water in the body that needs to come out. Will that individual have to wait for you to fix your teething problem? Why couldn't you transition pole and get us there even if it's after a year?
We've seen programs in history, Rope, where the government has had to rally or campaign for registration nationwide, and it has worked. We saw the registration for Huduma number, where millions, the Huduma number right now is not even being used, but when it came to registration, millions were made to register by one government, one cabinet secretary. When it comes to issues of voter registration, it happens, people register, and millions register to cast their votes within a period of 30 days when the registers are open. I'm saying this because one of the excuses or one of the explanations that this administration has given, and as far as the challenges are concerned, is that people have been very slow to registering for the SHA. What is a challenge with the registration? Is it an issue that, yes, the president is right in ensuring that this is rolled out, but the people under him who are given the chance to actually do the job are simply not capable of doing it?
If you check on Huduma number, it was a mandatory, and they were given deadlines. And that's why the roll-up went on so well. And it had a funding of around 6 billion shillings. Today, if you take a budget of 6 billion to fund sensitizations and registration of share, the fight that the same government will get is not easy. So, to me, I think there's just an incompetence in government about giving out information on what the government is implementing and the importance of it. That if Kenyans today would know the value of SHA, that every radio station every morning would have people from government teaching about the importance of having SHA.
Is it impossible? We've had a period of about a whole year preparing for this SHA. Are you saying that kind of campaign could not have happened?
It could, but it needs government funding. So we need to know whether it is, we need the officials from the government to tell us. To my thinking, SHA is a good idea. How has been rolled out or maybe giving out information on its importance is very difficult. Like I was talking with a friend yesterday. We were having lunch, and his grandfather, who is over 80 years, had misplaced his ID. And there was a sensitization in Kapseret constituency rolled out by the sitting member of parliament, Oscar Sudi, about registration for SHA. And many people registered yesterday. So he was called to send a copy of an ID, which he has on his laptop, which he had used to apply for his passport. So we had to sit somewhere, go to his laptop, find the ID, and give out so that registration can happen. Because the current MB is doing a sensitization in the ground. If we have more sensitizations like those whereby they're like barazas and telling people the importance of this thing, people will register and they'll subscribe to it and they'll get services. About challenges that it has, true it has. And anything today that we implement will have challenges even in your own capacity, as a business person or your own thing that you're doing. But there are good reports, there are good covered stories of what SHA has done to other people. There are people who have undergone surgeries and have not paid anything. We need also to appreciate some of the facts that are happening like that. And if we have evidences of success stories that have happened, then it just shows that we need to perfect it and make sure that it reaches every Kenyan for the good. What I would love to say is this, that we do not have perfection. Even if today Hans is made the president of this country, or my friend here, Josephat, will not have a perfection of implementing everything. All we want to have is, as the ideas comes in, Kenya is ours. Today, we are fighting SHA. And listen, hold on.
Insisted that it's being fought.
Let me tell you.
The challenge is people are just asking.
Hold on, Fred. Let me tell you. I have some evidence for this. If you're fighting SHA today to say NHIF has been working, and it has been all over the country, that NHIF is not working. It only pays your bed. And now our government is coming with a program which gives you more services than that, and you're fighting it. If anything, I would love to see people coming to contribute that let us make it better this way. These are what we should add. We should omit this. Other than fighting the whole thing as it is. It doesn't, lastly, Fred, it doesn't give you any factuals to really fight something that is coming overhaul. And you're not giving your opinions, and you're not saying of the things that should be omitted. If we want to help this country, we should see those who are criticizing the government, that is not right. If we could do it this way, the intention of any person, probably either trying to oppose the other person, is thirstiness to be in that position to benefit from the resources of the government. Therefore, if you really want to do good, let us do together. We are not happy on how you are doing this, but if you do it this way, it could be better. Because wasting the next 3 years that you could have received services from government, just because you want to fight to benefit to go into a city in the next 3 years, doesn't make anything wiser of you.
Thank you, Rob, and I have about a minute each for the three of you for your parting shot.
Yeah, I think, Fred, I want to speak to the president today and say that, Mr. President, Kenyans, finally, the Catholic bishops have caught up with the Gen Z revolution spirit. And Kenyans have expressed themselves in all diverse manners, from protest to the X space and to various forms of platforms that we could access. Clearly, there is a huge deficit between what you as our president and your administration says and what we as Kenyans are receiving. Of all the other things that you and the administration is failing on, all we request is that just regulate the health system. Bring back Educare, students are have died, and also this shisha is not really working. We need a proper health system among other services.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josephat. Bonangaira.
You know, Kenyans in their wisdom passed the 2010 constitution with a very clear mandate to the three important institutions that were supposed to govern our country. That is to have a lean and efficient executive, to have a very tough parliament that can be able to oversight the executive, and the judiciary that is able to actually hold the people into account. It is very clear that today as we speak, Fred, that those institutions are no longer playing their roles, and many of them have actually collapsed because parliament as we speak is dead. And the judiciary is neither even doing well. It's about time that Kenyans now take up their mandate personally as the leading oversight of this country, and each one of us be able to do something on their own to oversight this government, because the government of Kenya is not an NGO, Fred. It is funded by taxpayers' money, and therefore we are the first people who are supposed to oversight this government. I know I'm doing mine with a new reform campaign, and we're going to run it across constituencies so that we can be able to hold our leaders from the bottom to the top. So I think it's about time Kenyans admit that the institutions have failed, so that then they take their own God-given mandate to be able to oversight this government, because we all deserve good services.
Okay, thank you, Bonangaira. Finally.
Thank you so much, Fred. And I will just start by saying that when Kenyans speak, when Kenyans raise their voice, they do not want your jobs, they do not want to attack you, they do not want you to feel bad. We are just speaking with you because we are the beneficiaries and the poor who enjoy these services. So when the government spends so much time engaging in propaganda and blogging instead of doing work, that's what you get when the bishops are talking and over 10 government agencies are writing letters at night. Please stop attacking individuals, stop attacking the messenger, attack the message. And the message is the Kenyans are talking about challenges of health, they're talking about the culture of lies and the culture of education. And lastly, Fred, there is once upon a time a governor of New York. His name was Cuomo, from the Cuomo Italian family. And he said that governments are known to campaign in poetry, but they govern us in prose. The sweet language of Mama Boga, watu wa chini, watu wa mkokoteni, these are the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. When things get really worse, these are the people who are already vulnerable, and therefore they feel the pain of poverty more, because people who are a bit higher in the pyramid have some sort of safety nets. So for as long as this government is not working for the Mama Boga, then surely you are not keeping promises. And lastly, about health. Health is a human right, it's an emergency. When you keep belaboring about lack of registration, one would ask, why not take my data from NHIF and then you work a law of moving it to SHA? Because my name is Wanja, even in my NHIF record, it's still the same name. Why do you want me to register again? Because we have a way, in the West, there's a way your ID is tied to your social security number, to your driver license. There's so much registration. You have my data of health, just use it.
Okay, thank you so much. Wanja Maina, founder, the Hummingbird Grassroots Center. Josephat Kamanya, political analyst. George Ngaira, governance analyst. And Hans Rop, political analyst. Our panelists this morning. The headlines on the Daily Nation: it's lies and more taxes. Bishops blast Ruto's government. Bishops accuse state of human rights abuses. That's the Star newspaper. On the Standard, bishops take on Ruto over killings and graft. And Taifa Leo sema ni system ya maovu. Maaskofu wakemea serikali kwa ukandamizaji wa haki msingi za raia na mauaji kiholela. And I think there's one more. People Daily, Catholics simply saying Ruto must stop lying. Those are just some of the headlines, not me. It's the headlines. And there's a statement that was read out by the Catholics, Catholic bishops yesterday. And yes, it is the biggest discussion. Of course, matters closely linked to what's happening in the health sector. Outpatient crisis hits public hospitals. That's also on the front pages today. So these are the biggest discussions this Friday morning. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time at TV47. Remember, it is a Feel Good Friday. DJ Granite is in the house, and we do expect some music and a lot more, including D-Syrian dances coming later on, so do stand by for that. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Good morning.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.